This is The Litter Box, a Detroit Lions podcast with your hosts, Chet West and Bill Patterson.
Detroit Lions Litter Box listeners, you got your season finale in the Windy City yesterday, Sunday, January 4th. We are recording on Monday, January 5th, giving our reaction and our response to what we saw, a Lions 19-16 victory over what will be the number 2 seed Chicago Bears coming out of the NFC. We won it with field goals and zone defense. Bill, I know you have thoughts. Please give them to me.
So, Chet, first and foremost, yesterday's game was as entertained as I've been in 2 months watching the Lions. It was just a fun game. Ben Johnson on one sideline, MCDC on the other, cold weather, gray skies, outdoor football, grass stains, and the Lions ended up winning. That's the good news, Chet. That's the glass half full. Do you want to hear my real thoughts?
Please, give it to us.
Why didn't we do this in either Minnesota game? Because guess who'd be going to the playoffs right now?
It's fascinating to think about, and it's a little frustrating, but it was also bizarre to watch because you watch a coach that brazenly went for it on fourth down, didn't kick field goals, a defensive coordinator who played man-D with what was obviously not enough talent on the defensive side of the ball all season to do man-D. And yet here we were getting what we asked for and squeaking out a win against the number 2 seed. Bill, it frustrates me a little bit, but in all honesty, it doesn't shock me because they were kind of going with the game plan that got them to where they've gotten to over the last 4 seasons or 3 seasons.
Yeah, and I guess how much stock do we put in also that they did finish with a winning record? So that's now 4 of the last 5 seasons in the MCDC Brad Holmes era. They're winners. They've built a winning culture, and that's, I think, enough that we have to hang our hat on. I do think we need to be really, really frustrated, though, because it was a season. Let's break it down this way, Chet. Obviously, the Vikings games are going to be the 2 biggest in our craw. The Steelers game was extremely upsetting for the fact that they just couldn't stop the run with 3rd and 4th string tackles in there.
Yeah.
Beyond that, I don't know that they were ever really that in the Rams game after the first 3 and out in the second half. And then both Packers games, I'm still going to chalk up as losses, especially the week 1. They just looked overmatched, overwhelmed. They didn't have answers for Green Bay's front 7. That was when you and I knew that Frank
the offensive line started looking really bad.
Yes.
And the injuries were starting to show in that game. I mean, you and I said this yesterday during the game a little bit, like the center position in Glasgow. Glasgow isn't below average center. We all know this, but so much better than what we've had the last couple of weeks. And look how much of a difference it makes.
Exactly. So here's another weird one for you. Yesterday, they ran the ball for 4.5 yards a clip. We should have seen more Monty in what arguably is probably going to be his final game. I don't see the Lions with the salary cap upcoming. I know it's going to increase, but they can't afford to have a top 10. I think he's number 7 in salary for cap hit, next year. So I see him being a cap casualty, which is unfortunate because I really enjoyed Monty's time here. And so I guess if nothing else, I'd like to give a salute to him.
End of Sonic and Knuckles, if you will, which probably ended a couple weeks ago, really, but the true end.
Yeah, and then another guy who he drew our ire at times, but he also made a lot of plays. I don't see Alexander Zaloni probably coming back. He was in concussion protocol and didn't play yesterday, and he was nothing more than a Honolulu Blue and Silver Warrior. Unlike some other guys like Marcus Davenport looking at you, DJ Reader looking at you, please don't let the door hit you on the way out. Thanks for your time and service. I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Now that the dust is settled, do you know who was the second most productive D-end duo in the NFL this season?
I'm guessing it's got to be Bob Muhammad and Hutch.
After Danielle Hunter and everything, Will Anderson at Houston, who might make a Super Bowl run because they've got a fearsome foursome up front and get competent quarterback play, run the ball just enough, etc.
I mean, Bob and Hutch had like 20-some sacks between the two of them.
Had 11.
Bob had 11 and Hutch had 12 or 13 to end with?
Yeah. So another thing, my vote for comeback player of the year, and I would give a game ball to Hutch, He did really well yesterday. My other game ball's got to go to Amun-Ra, the sun god. He was everywhere yesterday. If I had to give a diss, it would be this real quick. Why is Gibbs out there so much comparatively to Monty? And then let me circle back to my question. How much money do you think Bob Muhammad's made in his entire NFL career? Because I looked it up today.
But I think in one season, it's probably going to eclipse that in the next season.
Yeah, you're close.
That entire figure.
So $13 million and change is the actual
is what
number
he's made in his career so far.
Yeah,
okay.
He is 30 years old, going into age 31. Next season. So here's my question for you: if you could get Bob on a 3-year team-friendly deal, not that I expect him to do it, Chet, you have to pull the trigger. You can't waffle on this. Yes or no? What do you do?
No, I don't. I'm going all in for Max Crosby at this point.
Really?
Apparently, the Raiders are making him available.
Okay.
And I cannot imagine being a team going up against Max Crosby and Hutch.
I can't either.
Granted, if you got to make Bob like your bailout if you don't get Max and somebody goes crazy and pays the world for Max, but I got a feeling Max could end up in Detroit.
Max just got extended, so he's on a 3-year extension.
I know.
The problem with it is
it's a big chunk of change. I know.
The cap
There's
hit's going to be brutal.
Yep. They'll have to restructure multiple deals, get a bunch of guys to agree to restructuring, namely Mr. Goff. They're going to have to do some work to be able to fit that in. But from what I understand, like Decker, if he doesn't come back, and granted, these are all other problems down the way, right? With our O-line, is we're probably not going to get Decker back. I don't know if Glasgow's coming back. It sounds like Dan Skipper, tackle eligible, maybe done. He gave a tearjerker of an interview yesterday in the locker room. He's got back issues that he's had all season long, and he's got to wait to hear what doctors have to say about that. And these guys get beat up and they keep playing, and they just become kind of fractions of themselves out there on the field. But back to the defensive end question, I'm going after Max Crosby. I'm sorry. I know it sounds like a pipe dream, but I'm going all in on that. I'm figuring out how to restructure to get that guy in the squad.
Okay.
That's where I'm starting. Bob Muhammad's a great consolation prize, if you will. If we can't get anybody else, I'm going for Bob again. And I'm not to say Bob didn't have a good season, but nothing in his repertoire tells me he can repeat that.
He would be such a unicorn in the NFL.
Such a unicorn.
To A, have his best season age 30, and then B, to sign him to 3 years would just be... This is one I think you let some other team bite the bullet, and you go with a more.
This is Jonah Jackson part 2, but on the defensive end side of things.
Great analogy. Well done, sir. All right. My next question for you, circling back a bit, is this is what zone looks like. And had we just run this against the Vikings, we'd be in the playoffs right now.
Yeah.
And Chet, I'll be very frank with you. The Lions would have won the division had they beat the Vikings twice. And so now they'd be hosting a playoff game opposed to having to go on the road because the Bears or someone else would have to come to them. I haven't done all the math on that, but you've got some
I know
garbage teams like, I'm sorry, but the Panthers are garbage.
I don't understand why. I just don't understand what Shep's reluctance was. I mean, he had every excuse in the world to shift off of his game plan, or Aaron Glenn's game plan, if you will, mid-season or earlier when the injuries started popping up. And some of these guys want to ride their plan, want to do their thing to show that it'll work, to prove they can do it, prove they can get the job done. But they do it in the face of failure. And I just don't understand why.
So this
we didn't flip to this earlier.
I don't know the reason, but I blame this again on Johnny Moe for the fact that if Johnny Moe had just been competent in his job and Dan Campbell could have actually been the CEO that he should be.
You think Dan would have reached over to Kelvin and said,
I think the CEO was so busy with his glasses and his face in the play calling sheet, which if you look at how the Lions finished this year, they scored a boatload of points. The problem is they just couldn't get off the field at key times.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go back. I don't want to keep harping on it. Obviously, the Viking games, are 1A and 1B in my, frustration for the 2025 season. Part 2 would be that Steelers game where I still don't understand how and why the Steelers did that, given that we knew, you and I, like two boobs with a microphone and headphones, knew that that's what Arthur Smith's game plan was, and it still came to fruition. So let's transition off of this. We talked about our wish list. I think number one is getting an offensive coordinator.
Sure.
And a couple names are available now that I think are somewhat interesting, and I want to see what your thought is. Does Kevin Stefanski, just released and fired from the Cleveland Browns, do anything for you? He's a 2-time coach of the year.
Yep, he does.
However, the knock on him is that he has not necessarily been the quarterback whisperer that people think he could be.
Yep.
However, what he does excel at is rejuvenating quarterbacks' careers.
Before I go making a choice on an OC at this point, I need to see what I get to choose from. We have an interesting situation here, Bill. Okay. The pool of potential head coaches out there for this season is a little thinner than it was last year. Quite a bit thinner than it was last year.
Last year was like a gold rush.
And there's already 6 openings. So some of these guys that were head coaches, the Dables, the Stefanskis, the, Raheem Morris, whoever you want to go with, that no longer have head coaching jobs, might get recycled into another team system as a head coach. They may not be stepping back into a coordinator position.
I think we can say that safely, except for Pete Carroll, who is probably heading straight
riding off into the sunset.
He's either going to Cabo to play golf or going to Hawaii to play golf.
It may be time for Pete to just take a season off, see how retirement settles with you. Do you think there's a chance we'd ever see like a Gruden back in the NFL?
I think there's always a chance.
There's always a chance.
I feel
like this is the type of year where it could happen.
I wouldn't want to be that franchise, so I'm thankful that's not an option.
But we're in a real thin head coaching pool right now.
But when we talked about, you brought up 3 names there, and they're all available today.
Yeah.
If we couldn't, I guess Stefanski would be my first choice.
I think he's number one. He's got to be number one.
And then Dayball would be number 2. And then, no offense, I want nothing to do with Raheem Morris. Another name for you that was let go that I actually think he's an excellent coordinator. I just don't think anybody can really go there and win, and that is the Arizona Cardinals. The Bidwells
you're looking at, I know who you're
that's the defensive side of the ball, and right now, offense and OC is so much more important. But if Jonathan Gannon doesn't get picked up,
you think he's an interesting selection? I'm not opposed. Let's put it that way.
I'm going to just say one final thing on this, because obviously we do need to let the chips fall.
Mm-hmm.
I want voices that have not been in Allen Park or inside the building the last 5 years. I want some new ideas. I want freshness. I want Dan and Kelvin and whomever, Brad, to be challenged. And I think, when Jonathan Gannon was hired, he was one of the young, inspiring defensive coordinator minds. Same with Kevin Stefanski. They just happened to go to really bad situations.
Wait, defensive coordinator? You said defensive coordinator. Offensive coordinator.
Defense for Jonathan Gannon.
Oh, okay. All right.
Offense for Stefanski.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So good clarification. I think you'd be getting 2 young, bright minds that would meld well. And then their next head coaching gigs, because I fully expect both of them possibly to get that opportunity. Why not just stick with Dan for, 2-3 seasons and then go to a good franchise? Wait for the Eagles to come available or, the Bills to become available.
What I think some of these guys should do.
The Ravens.
I think that's what some of them should do. I mean, one of these guys might want to sit it out for a year, do some coordinator work for a year or two, and wait for a good gig to pop open somehow.
Because you and I both know the Cardinals and Browns that's bad.
If you're Stefanski going to the Cardinals or going to, Tennessee, is that a good option? Or going to
Tennessee,
Atlanta right now with that whole situation? I wouldn't want to be going into those spots. Yeah. Can I give you some interesting takes? Are you done? Do you want to talk about the coordinator stuff anymore?
No, I'm good. Yeah, you fire away your questions.
So much questions, but there's a couple of interesting statistics that came out of this season, Bill.
Okay, great.
And I thought I'd fire a few of these things at you.
Please.
So one thing right off the top, and we talked about this, they had a winning season. That's 4 straight, consecutive winning seasons.
I don't think that's ever happened in our lifetime.
First time in more than 50 years.
Okay.
That has happened. For the Lions. Now, secondarily, here's an odd one. The Lions finished last in the division. The division had no losing teams, by the way. Every team had a winning record, which is out of my mind bizarre when you look at like the NFC South and stuff like that. And you're like, how is that even possible?
They would have won the North or the South.
Listen to this. They finished first in point differential.
Yeah.
But finished last in the division. That's stupid. Okay. That's dumb. And there was a tweet out there from Pride of Detroit.
Thanks, Brian Flores.
This. Yeah. Last in the division, first in point differential. What a wacky, stupid season. That's what his tweet was. I died laughing. The Bears, Kevin Fishbane tweets this. The Bears are the first division champ with a sub 500 record in their division since the 2010 Chiefs. That is unbelievable. And that 2010 Chiefs AFC West was, I think, somewhat maligned. It usually is anyways. Bears went 2-4 in division this year and won it with 11 wins and got the number 2 seed in the NFC. Give me a break. And here's the thing. We get 2 teams into the playoffs. One of them's going home after week 1. We don't even have good representation in the playoffs at this point because of that. That's crazy.
Unlike last season when representation was strong, 3 teams, and still nobody went beyond the opening weekend or their first weekend. I mean, the Lions obviously had the bye.
That's true. But we had the 3 at the same time. The NFC North just may be this way for a while. Who knows?
The Vikings were one and done, so were the Packers. So
yeah.
All right.
Interesting tidbits.
Yeah, those are good. Hey, loyal Litter Box listeners, we really appreciate you sticking with us for the season. We will be back in as more firings and job openings happen. So expect some off-season tidbits. We'll probably do a mock draft or 2 as well. Maybe talk a little bit about, who might be up and coming for fantasy for next season. And we'll keep you up to date on all that. So thank you. Please give our Detroit Tigers litter box a listen as well as the hot stove starts to heat up. And Chet, it was a fun season.
Litterbox listeners, thank you very much. Have a great off season. Go Lions.